Hey, this is Joshua Zeller with a new review, coming at you with a review on the newest movie in the reboot series of Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes. A little bit of background. The Planet of the Apes franchise started technically in 1963 with the publication of a book called Planet of the Apes. I'm using the translated version because I don't know how to pronounce the French title. And it basically follows the story of three individuals who travel from Earth to another planet, which is ruled by a society of advanced apes that have a caste system. And then after they escape this planet, they go back to Earth and they find something similar has happened. However, we find out that the entire story is a letter written, put in a bottle, shot into space, and found by a pair of chimps who don't believe the story because they don't think humans can possibly be intelligent. Then in 1968, Planet of the Apes is made and released. Fairly similar plot line to an extent. However, the entire thing takes place on Earth, and there's an entire five five film series that is associated with this first movie. It is one of the five, and it spans basically till the end of the modern Earth with apes ruling, and then goes back in time to the early years. And I personally have not seen the entirety of the original series. I've only seen the first one several times, and it's a very good movie. Um, I do intend to watch it. And then there was an attempted reboot in the early 2000s. It did not really go so well. That one was called Planet of the Apes. Um, it was directed by Tim Burton, and while there were some significant differences, the between the original and original remake, um, the use of heavy prosthetic makeup to turn humans into apes was reused, and that I think was a good job because I have seen that movie and the makeup job was fantastic. Um, and then we didn't see anything for another 10 years until 2011 with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. In this, they took another look at, or taking it from another look. Of course, there are references to the original series, some names of some characters associated with either characters in the movie or people associated with the production. Of course, the ape that starts it all off is a chimp named Caesar, just like in the original trilogy. Um, and it takes a different approach. Instead of apes that evolved naturally, it's apes that were genetically modified in association with medical testing to find a cure or at least a treatment for Alzheimer's. Um, and it instead of doing a race relations theme like the original series did, it goes more for an animal rights theme. There is a little bit of race relations, but that doesn't happen until much later in the series. Personally, I think this series has done a lot of good things. It's using CG to make the apes so that it's not as dangerous. And Andy Serkis has played Caesar all three films. It is a great fit. It's a great series. I highly recommend going to see the first two and then seeing the third one. Now, a little bit of structure for this video. I'm going to talk about the movie itself, my thoughts about it, and then I'm going to go through through a few references that it makes. And then after that, you should all go see the movie. Anyone who watches this, go see the movie. All right, so the events of this movie take place 2 years after the events of the second movie, where a war starts, started by Koba, a bonobo, which is a little weird because bonobos are known for being very peaceful and dealing with their conflicts through sex. Anyways, so a war started, and we learned that a special forces unit has been sent to deal with Caesar and his people. or apes, as the case may be. And the first sequence of events is this battle between some soldiers with ape turncoats and some of Caesar's apes. It's a very bloody battle, fairly brief, like most skirmish type battles are. Um, at first, a lot of apes are killed because of the element of surprise and more advanced technology. There are some guns in the apes' arsenal, but not as many as with humans. And again, they have the element of surprise, and they are much better trained in assault tactics than the apes are in defensive tactics. Not that they're not intelligent. Eventually, the humans are defeated by reinforcements coming and firing dozens upon if not hundreds of arrows, killing almost everyone except for 4 humans and a gorilla. Um, and it and as it goes from there, it's Caesar trying to find a better place for his people to stay, a safer place. They don't want war. They didn't want war. Koba started it, and now they have to deal with the consequences of Koba's actions. And a consistent thing that comes up in the movie is Caesar starts to think that he might be Koba-like. But that starts pretty soon after his son is killed. Um, Happens early in the movie, and Caesar wouldn't be out with 3 other apes from his colony by themselves and looking all serious and scary for no reason. There was a reason, and sorry for this little spoiler. Actually, there'll be spoilers throughout the entire movie, throughout the entire review. Um, so after the colonel assaults the colony and kills his son, Caesar uh, starts the relocation of his people, but he leaves with 3 others: Rocket, Maurice, who've been with the series since the beginning, and a gorilla named Luca, who I think appeared in the second movie as a background character but became a main character for this movie. And they're trying to find the soldiers so they can kill this colonel, played by Woody Harrelson. Um, and they first stumble upon a little settlement that's populated by a man, and we later find a girl, who we think is his daughter. And the girl can't talk, which they find very strange, and to be honest, I found very strange because people talk. And they're trying to find humans, and the humans stop, and while they're following this group of humans that they later find, the humans stop and fire a few rounds. They don't know what's going on when they stumble upon this little grave, which is shown in the trailer. They later find out that these humans were like the little girl they found. They can't talk because one of them didn't die of their wounds. Um, and as they're trying to find where the humans went, because they stopped, it was in the middle of a snowstorm, and there was some gunshots going off. They didn't want to risk anything. So they get separated from the humans they were following, and when they're trying to find them by climbing up high, they stumble upon another individual. Turns out this is an ape. We find out to be Bad Ape, an ape that was not with them but has become intelligent, learned to talk, and Caesar postulates them may be more like Bad Ape. And they later find out Bad Ape knows about a place that had humans but now has soldiers, and Caesar thinks that's probably where the colonel is, that's probably where the soldiers are, and when they find this place, they see some strange things going on, and then when Caesar gets closer after Luke is killed, he finds his entire clan there, and finds out that they were ambushed, and he himself is captured. And he finally sees the colonel face to face again, lets the colonel know he's trying to kill him. And there's a really interesting dichotomy. The colonel is very calm and collected, does not seem to have any personal emotion into it until he reveals that it's kind of like a holy war to him. and we'll get a little bit more into this when I talk about the references. Um, and there's really this battle of will between Caesar and the Colonel, and you think sometimes Caesar will win, and then you think sometimes the Colonel will win. Actually, I think most times the Colonel will win. And the Colonel is trying to get Caesar to join him, Caesar to work for him, so that he can build this wall, because he's going to be attacked by another faction of soldiers. Because, as I said before, this little girl that they find, she can't talk, and some soldiers that are shot, that are left behind, they can't talk. It is revealed that the virus, the simian flu, is evolving and is causing people to regress to a primitive state where they can't talk, where they can't act human. And the Colonel's thought is they just should kill them. Anyone who exhibits these symptoms, just kill outright. Other human factions think that they can find a medical or scientific cure, and he disagrees, and they're now trying to kill him because he said, if you want to relieve me of my command, come and do it yourself. And so apparently they're building this wall to prepare for an attack, which does eventually come while Caesar is staging a breakout with the help of Maurice and Bat Ape and the little girl who's named Nova. Get again to that in the references. And instead of joining his people, he's still on this revenge kick. And when he goes to kill the Colonel, he finds that he's been infected by the advanced virus. The little girl had come in, left her doll, and the Colonel found it. And so Caesar just walks away and he kills him, and the Colonel kills himself. Now, an important thing that comes about during this whole battle sequence is while Caesar is trying to help his people escape, he is nearly killed by a soldier that he spared, only to be saved by one of the turncoat apes. And these apes are called donkeys. Get more into that when we talk about the references. And it's a very good recognition of these humans aren't going to protect us. They're just going to kill us, just like you. So I'm going to do the right thing, is what this gorilla basically did. And all the named donkeys are gorillas, so that's interesting. Anyways, so they get away, and they find this new safe place. And it's this beautiful, beautiful lake by a mountain. I'm sure I know where it is, I just can't remember at the moment, because I've seen pictures of it. And Caesar had been wounded during the escape by this soldier who he had spared, and he's talking to Maurice, saying, and they both acknowledge that Caesar's going to die. And Maurice promises to let his surviving son know, because like I said, Caesar's oldest son is killed, and his younger son named Cornelius, who again we'll get to in the references, is the only one that's left of his family, and Maurice promises to let Cornelius know what his father was like, who his father was. And then he dies. And that's the end of the movie. Everyone starts to mourn. It's very sad, but it is the end of Caesar's journey. To be honest, it would have been interesting to see him leading an actual civilization, or see the legacy that he left with the further generation, because there's another movie coming out that has been confirmed. But that was the end of his story, and I'd like to see how this story goes from here on out. Now, on to the references. There are quite a few references. First, I'm going to get to one I found was pretty big. The faction that we meet of soldiers is known as Alpha Omega. Now, Alpha Omega are two Greek letters. They mean the beginning and end. And this entire group of soldiers, it's a very religious aspect. They are the beginning and the end. of humanity. And it's kind of like a religious cult because the colonel kind of takes on this like religious godlike role among his men and women, technically, because there are also female soldiers there. And it is very interesting to watch that interaction because they're very reverent of him. They don't do anything without his say so. Um, there's a little bit of Pharaoh reference there in it too. Um, a lot of Charlton Heston things going on here in this movie. And in the original series of movies, there was this subspecies of mutant humans who worshipped a nuclear bomb that had an alpha and omega on one of the fins, and it was a doomsday weapon that was worshipped. Um, and by the end of the movie, the alpha of the War for the Planet of the Apes, Alpha Omega is destroyed. And in the original series, in the second movie, the Alpha Omega bomb, the Doomsday bomb, destroys the world. So there's a little bit of a connection there, religious, the beginning and the end. And it's really interesting to see. A smaller reference that is seen throughout the movie is the use of the word donkey and Kong. Um, when Caesar's son is killed, the colonel says over the radio, King Kong is down. And in the camp, it says the only good Kong is a dead Kong. And of course, the apes that are turncoats are called donkeys. This is a reference to another famous ape another couple of famous apes that are used in a couple of franchises. One is King Kong. And what's a really cool connection is that some of the actors in Planet of the Apes were in King Kong movies. So the biggest one, obviously, Andy Serkis was in the 2005 version of King Kong. He played the eponymous ape as well as another few characters. I can't remember who else besides Lumpy. I think he just played Lumpy. Anyways, and that was a really good performance that Andy Serkis did as King Kong. And a couple of other actors, the actor who played Koba and the actor who plays Rocket, were both Kong in the most recent King Kong movie. And those actors' names are Terry Notary and Toby Kebbell. Toby was the face capture actor, and Terry Notary was the motion capture for the body. And of course, Donkey Kong, a famous Nintendo ape, gorilla specifically. Another reference that is pretty important is Cornelius, the son of Caesar. Now, in the original series, Caesar is the son of Cornelius, who we meet in the first Planet of the Apes movie, who escapes to the past. Caesar doesn't know this Cornelius because he's a baby when his father dies. And he has a son who he names Cornelius. Now, in the reboot series, Cornelia, Caesar's wife, is a reference to Cornelius because Cornelia is the female version of Cornelius. But there's a direct link between the Cornelius son of both Caesars, so that's a really cool reference there. And another really important reference is seen with Bad Ape. Now, all the other apes that we've seen, except Caesar, didn't wear any clothes. Caesar only wore clothes in the first movie because he lived with humans for a long time, and that's how he was dressed. Bad Ape is the first ape that we've seen to adapt to the situation and wear human clothes. And in the original series, apes wore clothes. They had they wore clothes, and it was really interesting to see. So this may be a reference as to what's to come in the future. We don't know what the fourth movie has in store, but it is going to be exciting. I am looking forward to this. You guys should all go see this movie. It is great. This is Josh Azella with New Review on the review for War of the Planet of the Apes. Y'all should go see it. Have a nice day.